Greetings, everyone. My name is Sade Mallory Mason, and I am a patient advocate. I've also been living with lupus for 7 years, and I've spent a lot of time navigating this disease, asking questions, and working to make sure patient voices are included in spaces where decisions about our bodies are being made. So today, I am very excited to sit down with the founders of ImYoo, and that is Tatyana and David. And we're going to learn a little bit about who they are, why patient voices matter in the research that they're doing, and to break down a lupus study in a way that actually makes sense. So I, as a patient, I know firsthand how overwhelming research can feel when it's filled with jargon and doesn't always reflect real life, which is exactly why today's conversation matters. So before we jump into it, I'm going to start things off a little differently. So you guys know how, like when you're on the internet and we come across those prove you're human picture tests online, like the ones where you have to click the bicycles and the bridges and all the boxes,
Yeah.
which
Yep.
is kind of ironic because like it's a robot asking me to confirm that I'm a human, but whatever. So I'm going to do my own little human check, just so everyone watching knows that you are real people and not just scientists behind a screen. So, Tatiana, we'll start with you. Coffee, tea, or neither?
Hey.
David?
Coffee.
Okay. Early bird or don't talk to me yet?
Oh, don't talk to me yet.
Okay.
Yeah, don't
David?
talk to me yet. Yeah. Same.
Okay. Endless social media scrolling or reading a book?
Book. I wish it were a book, but my brain is weak.
Okay. Podcast or playlist?
Podcast. Playlist.
Playlist. Okay. Two more. Zoom on or off camera energy.
On.
Okay.
Zoom on. Yeah, camera on. Yep.
Okay. And last one. When you're overwhelmed, do you guys typically push through or step away to reset?
Push through.
Push through. Yeah.
Push through. Okay.
Until you can't, right? Sometimes you just can't.
Yeah, I get it. Yes. Okay. Well, now that we've confirmed that you guys are human, let's get into why we are here today. So I kind of broke the questions into segments, and the first segment is going to be called Before the Lab Coats. Before we talk about the science and the study, I always like to start with the people because before MU, before titles and degrees, you guys were just human beings living life. So both of you guys, who were you before MU existed? Tatiana, you can start.
I'm Tatyana. I was born in Uzbekistan. I immigrated to America in 2003. I always wanted to be an astronaut. I still do. I want to go to space. And since then, I've been working towards that. Um, I went to do my undergrad in aerospace and electrical engineering. And then things got, started to get shifted. During one of my internships, I got diagnosed with Hashimoto's. Well, the diagnosis journey took longer, but that was my first medical scare. And it was really scary how little data we use in diagnosis and treatment assignment. And I decided, okay, I think I want to start going more towards biology and medicine. I worked at NASA JPL for 3 years. I worked on small satellite radios. Um, Two of them went to Mars. They were little cube twin satellites to prove out that we can send them out that far. And then nights and weekends with David, I volunteered at Caltech to learn biology. I'm not a book person. I like mainly doing things by getting into projects. So I volunteered different labs and then decided to go to graduate school with full intent of starting a company in space where we can patients can really reclaim ownership over their health through data. So that's a little bit of my story.
Thank you.
Yeah, for me, before all of the science and biology stuff, I was a computer programmer and IT technician for a coffee chain in the Midwest, in Michigan. And I think because I grew up in a family that didn't really have anyone in science, All I really knew is I liked computers. And so I think that's how I ended up doing programming in IT.
Mhm.
And then what happened is I got exposed to the world of science and biology when I went back to school at University of Michigan.
Mhm.
And I realized at that moment that, wait, I can do all this stuff that I've been doing with computers, but I can do it for something that's like really way cooler and more complicated and more impactful, than being in like the kind of retail commercial space. And so that's what started my pivot um, to being in kind of applying my skills in biomedical science. Um, and I got exposed to all of these really cool tools, both on the biology side and also on the computational side. And for me, it was like, wow, okay, how can we get all of these things just in the hands of more people? Like, let's get this stuff out there. I felt like a kid in a candy store when I was first exposed to all of this stuff that was happening behind the scenes, like all the cool stuff you don't hear about from your doctor, right? Um, and I was just like, we got to get more people seeing what all the cool stuff that's going on behind the scenes and being able to also to play with it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I love how interested you are in sharing knowledge. So I'm sure a lot of us are going to benefit from that. Um, what do you care about deeply that has nothing to do with work? David, you can start.
For me, it's um remembering. I want people to be remembered. I want our stories and our lived experience to live on. I want my own, selfishly, I want my own to live on. And I want people in general just having the freedom to be able to spend their lives working on things that they're passionate about. Those are kind of my like big two, I'd say like moral vectors of things that I care about.
I love that. Tatyana, I'm actually going to ask you a different question. What what's a role that you've had in your life that taught you the most?
This one. You just have to do everything. So it teaches
Yeah,
you a lot. Yeah.
yeah.
It's
Okay,
like
okay.
you wake up and if things are not working, it's because of you. You can't, there's no one to
Yeah.
blame.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah.
mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that. What is something that you guys are still learning or unlearning?
Oh, I can answer this one. How to business.
Say that
We're
again.
how to business.
Okay. Okay.
Because our company is a biotech public benefit startup, and
Mm-hmm,
we are trying to uncover a lot about these diseases
mm-hmm,
scientifically, and
mm-hmm,
also, it is our responsibility to make money, right? So sometimes figuring out how do you juggle all of that
mm-hmm,
is challenging. How do you actually add value? Initially when we started, we were very science minded, and investors and business people could see that. So starting to think, okay, how do you provide value, do it ethically, also uncover new science, doing all of those things and not settling for something, that doesn't fit. It's has been
mm-hmm.
definitely a big learning journey for us.
Yeah, I can imagine. David, did you want to add on
Yeah,
to that
yeah,
question?
sure. For me, I would say communication. Um, I have a hard time deciding when is the right time to share something because it's really hard in this, I think, in the space of health and health science, that like we see something going, we work on something or we see something in the science, and um the kind of critical scientist hat that I wear is constantly telling me it's not ready yet. We're not sure. We're not
Mm-hmm.
100% confident that we can release this information or that we have this finding, and so you know, that you can go too far in the other end. You can just
Yeah,
say, oh, look, we found the cure for cancer, you know,
right.
every Tuesday.
Hmm.
And I know I don't want to be there, but I think where I am right now is I think it would be nice to share more, but kind of learning the art of sharing without um, you know, without misleading, without being too uh, uh, giving promise that isn't warranted, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So I think
Yeah.
that's really still learning that, and still I think lots to improve there.
Yeah, and that makes sense because that's a hard balance. I mean, especially when you get excited about something you want to share and give people hope, but at the same time you're a little hesitant that you don't want to like overpromise and, you know, be the reason why
Hmm.
people let down. So yeah, that's completely
Yeah.
understandable.
Because a lot of people have been burned, right? By being
Hmm.
promised something and then it falls flat and then they lose faith in the system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You're fighting a bigger battle because of the past. So it's a hard balance to find. Yeah, definitely. Two more questions for this segment. What is something that you learned early on that still guides how you make decisions today? Either one of you can take it.
You want to go first?
Yeah. Um, I uh I like to take my experience working in the coffee industry with me to um my work in the medical field. And the main learning is like about building things that um just everyday people can use,
Mhm.
like not losing touch with, you know, the kind of the software that I worked on was stuff that, you know, people just ordering coffee would use to order their coffee, or people behind the register, like the cashiers, like the ordering that they would do back there. And um yeah, building experiences that don't require uh special knowledge, you know, I don't know, just kind of maintaining that grounded perspective.
Mhm.
Um, I I found that very, like, the kind of stories that I would hear from baristas on the lines about, you know, they don't care how complicated my software is. They just want to be able
Yeah.
to push the button and move on, and you know, right? So
Yeah.
um,
Hmm.
yeah, so I take that forward still to today in the stuff that I'm working on here.
Yeah, that absolutely makes sense. Tatiana?
Yeah. Mine is it may be obvious, but there's this thing that people say, treat others like you would treat yourself.
Hmm.
Um, I learned not to listen to that because I sometimes, initially when I used to oversee folks for different group projects and things like that, sometimes I'm very harsh on myself, right? Sometimes you have like these expectations and you kind of almost see everybody as an extension of yourself. So I think when I challenged that notion of treat others like you would treat yourself, it really helped me have a lot more empathy for people, talk to them, and really just understanding everyone is different and everyone's motivated by
Yeah.
different things. And
Mhm.
so in some ways, it also kind of taught me to be, more patient and kinder to myself. So kind of
Hmm.
reversing that, the wisdom quote, I think that's something I carry on through today.
Yeah, I love that. I really, really love that. Okay, last question. What something about you that doesn't show up on your LinkedIn?
Okay, I can take this one. I'm a huge creature enthusiast, so weird
Okay.
organisms are my thing.
Okay.
Something if it's deep in the ocean, axolotls, tardigrades, whatever it is. I started a creature discussion group that's been going strong for a year. Every month we
Wow.
discuss a different creature and think about how can it help with human health? How can it help us with environmental impacts? So that's one of my hobby projects that you probably won't be seeing on LinkedIn.
On LinkedIn. I love that. I checked your LinkedIn and I did not see that. I love that. David, what about you?
Um, I have a worm farm, so I like the idea of taking all of my food waste,
Okay.
feeding it to worms, letting the
Mm-hmm.
worms convert it to dirt, giving the dirt to plants, and then growing plants that I eat to kind of close the whole loop. So all of my food waste
Mm.
goes to my worms, which I then use to grow vegetables to eat. It's not working very well right now. I will say that.
But I love it. It's almost like like the full circle,
Yeah,
almost
yeah,
like the
yeah.
circle of life, kind of,
Mm-hmm.
if you will. Right. Okay. Well, even though it's not going so good right now, like I love the idea, and I have faith that it will go very well soon.
Thanks.
All right. So thank you for that. So let's talk about why we are here today. As I mentioned earlier, research can sound intimidating. And if people don't understand what a study is, it's hard to care about the why behind it. So before we go any further, I really want to be able to break this study down in plain language. So I randomly called this segment Family Barbecue Talk. So we are going to imagine that we are at a family cookout. There's kids running around, music playing, somebody's uncle is yelling at the grill, and a cousin comes up to you guys. The cousin has no background, research, anything, and they ask, I saw you post about this study on social media. Like, I mean, what is it? How does it work? What is the point? How would you answer that question?
Okay. Yeah, this cousin hasn't been up to date on what I'm doing, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
You
We
just
have
randomly popped up at a family barbecue. They haven't seen you in years.
Okay, I think I would say so some people's body attacks itself. Some people's immune system attacks itself. That's, an error in the wiring of your biology. And the study that we just posted looks to help people take blood at home and understand whether their medication treatment or their medication plan is working or not. So we're looking at folks with lupus. This is where their body attacks themselves and they're looking sometimes to get off drugs, and they're looking to understand, is it actually working or not, right? Because a lot of the times when you try a new drug or you get off a drug, it's just trial and error. You're going in blind. We're trying to add data to that and to do it at home so you don't have to go to the doctor.
Yeah, the only thing I might add is you know, none of us generally want to be on drugs if we can avoid it, right? We take them because it makes our lives better, not because we enjoy the taste of pills or whatever. So, um, and so we are trying to, yeah, help people understand when, in a specific case of lupus, when it's safe or when it's a good time to make changes to
Okay.
either, yeah, yeah.
Okay. And so, as a patient, who I am involved in clinical trials, what, how is the study that you guys are doing? How is it different from the traditional clinic-based research?
Yeah, so just to set the stage, and as I'm sure you know, a lot of clinical research happens in the clinic, in the hospitals. COVID has started to change that a little bit, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, a lot of the times the doctor tells you when to come in, you read a giant stack of papers, you're there, you have to travel, you have to take a day off work, you're coming in there, you're doing all those tests, they're telling you when to do it, how to do it. So a lot of the research has been done this way, and I think as society, we're moving more towards patient centricity, where we follow the patient instead of having the patient follow kind of clinicians. So, and this is where our technology really comes into play. So our study is at home. We give you kits and you just collect, monthly as you're coming off your steroids. And then whenever you're flaring or whenever you're feeling unwell, when you feel that, you take a sample. Instead of me telling you at this time, you should take this sample this way. We check in with you and really give you the platform to say how you're feeling in all different ways. And also just have that conversation. I think a lot of the times, you kind of speak when you're asked to speak, in normal trials or studies. Here where it's like we're open to hear whatever you have to say. In our last study, a lot of people told us things we didn't ask for, right? It's like, I had this infection. So I would say patients really become patient scientists. That's what we like to call them.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas instead of before. I think it was more if you're an executor.
Yeah.
I'm not throwing shade on other studies. I understand some of them
Yeah.
are done that way for a reason, right?
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with a different way and a new way of doing things. And I think it's very important, like I said, as a patient, sometimes when you're not feeling well, then you have to go through the process of making an appointment for the doctor. Then you got to go get lab work done. And just, if you're not feeling well, I really don't feel like driving to LabCorp. And
Yeah.
then, by the time I get to LabCorp, maybe my flare is not as bad. And so now the numbers may not reflect what I was feeling at that particular time. So I love that it's kind of like it's easy access, if that makes sense. I love that. Um, Okay, so let's talk about the why this and the why now. As I was reading up on you guys, I know that ImYoo's mission is bigger than any one condition. At its core, it's about putting patients at the center of research from the very beginning. With that in mind, lupus is one of the areas that you're bringing that approach to life. And so, why does this kind of research feel especially relevant right now for people living with lupus?
So we thought a lot about, we have this, like you said, our mission is to be able to create an atlas of the human immune system across time, across disease, across treatments. But you need to focus on something. And so we really did a lot of searching, where can we make the most impact? So just to tell you, we chose lupus because it's one of those really underserved diseases in terms of understanding. Everyone looks very different. It's not something where you can easily go and get a tissue, a biopsy. Everyone expresses it differently. Everyone looks different with this disease. So, and we thought longitudinal would be really good here because we're not comparing you just to other people. We're comparing you to you when you were feeling fine or when you were not feeling fine, right? So that's why we chose lupus. Why do we choose steroids? Why do we choose to track steroids? We spoke to several patients, we spoke to clinicians, and we really wanted to understand, there's a lot of scientific questions we can answer, but like, what can we do to actually address a concern that patients have? And a lot of the times, patients, they taper off steroids and they don't know, like, am I doing okay? Am I about to flare? Like, they feel nervous, right? And so this is an opportunity where you can actually track yourself at home. And using this data, we hope to make an at-home test for folks, as they're tapering off, we can actually give you some data to say, hey, you're doing fine, you're still in remission, or hey, you're about to flare, you just lowered your dosage, right? So we really wanted to give actionability to this. And I think that's another way our study is unique. A lot of tests look at, which drug should you have? We're actually looking at the opposite. Is it safe for you to get off a drug? So, and that's something that patients want. So, and we listen to that and follow that along.
Okay. And other than the thing that you mentioned, is there any other additional gaps in traditional research, in traditional lupus research, that this study aims to address?
Yeah. So one thing that, and you can read it in our article if you're interested in our blog post. We hear that a lot of, and this is across I think all autoimmune conditions, is people experience fatigue. And fatigue usually gets dismissed as, okay, whatever, you have fatigue. We don't know if it's from lupus or you were just tired. One of the things we're also trying to capture with this study is to track fatigue and see if we can actually assign, like, is there something going on in your biology that is causing that fatigue to happen? Is that fatigue happening because of lupus or something else? That's another thing that I think does not get a lot of attention in lupus research.
I love the fatigue aspect because that was one of the hardest things that I had to convey to my doctors. And even when I was working in corporate, you can't really call your boss and say, hey, I'm not coming in today because I'm too tired. People really just don't understand that chronic fatigue is very debilitating. And it's one of the number one things that autoimmune patients or people who live with chronic illnesses talk about. So I love that that is part of your focus. Okay, so let's talk about what participation really looks like. A lot of people, when they hear the word study, they immediately feel nervous. So I just really want to make it really clear and grounded in real life for people. So either one of you, walk us through what participation may look like over the next 6 months from a patient's perspective.
Yeah, I think the best thing we can do is actually bring in a kit and show them what they would be getting and what they would be answering. So can we take a little pause and bring in one of the kids just so we can show
Absolutely.
you?
Yep.
What does it mean to participate in an ImYoo at-home study? So step one, you're going to sign up for the study, give us some information. So this lets us determine whether you're a good fit for a lupus study or any of the other studies we have going on. So once you've signed up, then you will have a call with our director of patient experience. Right now it's Petra, and she will walk you through what it means to be in the study. She'll walk you at, you just chat, tell her what you're up to, what your goals are. And after we determine whether it makes sense, then we enroll you in the study. So once you're enrolled for this study, we are looking to understand as you taper off steroids, is it working? What is your molecular, what are your molecules doing in your cells, right? So everyone is going to get an ImYoo kit. Okay, so Sade will show you the box.
Want to open it, or do you want me to open it?
And then I'll show the devices inside. So
Okay.
yep, those are the kits that you're gonna get as you participate. So you're gonna typically take a sample every month as you're tapering. However, let's just say you ended up, having a flare, right? And so you have this kit on hand and you say, okay, I am experiencing a flare and I'm going to open up my box and I'm gonna, follow the instructions here and take a survey. It'll guide you whether to take a sample for that particular flare. And then once you go through that, you'll be able to pull out a device. It looks like this. You're gonna put it on your arm. It's gonna puncture the skin, retract, and draw the blood into the tube. This is painless. We've done this over 600 folks, including some kids. So it just uses suction. And once you're done collecting, I don't have blood in here, but you're going to take off the tube. And then you are going just to send us the tube in the little box that's inside, that's provided inside the kit. So once you ship that off to us, you can just leave it outside the door, or you can drive it to FedEx. We will tell you, it's like, hey, we got it. It looks good. We're going to take your cells, put them into cozy liquid nitrogen, and it's going to stay there until we have all the samples from the study. And so as you're doing this every month, as you're tapering, you can collect a sample. And then whenever you're having symptoms or you're lowering your dosage, you can also take a sample. So the study is designed to last 6 months or whenever you're done tapering. As soon as you're done, we're going to give you your research report back, showing you, hey, this is what we found for you. And then we're going to do general findings, letting people know it's like, hey, this is what we found in the study in general. So yeah, participation very much looks like that. We'll be sure to be in communication with you, text or email you, say, hey, how are you doing? How are you feeling? You are really in control of when you want to collect the sample, but we're also there to guide you and help you and answer any questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you said, so in terms of how often samples are being collected, you said monthly?
Yeah, so the goal is
Okay.
you collect monthly as you're tapering, but you're going to have these kits on hand. So if you're having fatigue, skin rash, any joint pain, it's like, hey, I want to capture this. I'm empowered. I
Mhm.
can actually act and get some data on this. You can also collect the sample then. And as you
Okay.
know, if you're tapering, say from 10 to 5 or 5 to 0, as you're going down, you say, hey, I'm about to go down in my dosage. You can also collect the sample then.
Okay. Nice, nice. And so if someone gets the kit and, it's time for them to take it, I'm sure oh, I know because I've done it myself, but there are instructions and things like that. But just tell, for those who are interested, how do you guys make someone feel supported when collecting samples at home?
Yeah. The main thing for us is to make sure that people know that there's someone available. So we're probably a little over the top, but we put our phone number like everywhere.
Mhm.
So if you're going through the process and you get stuck, you can text or call or email our folks and we'll guide you through it. And then the other way is we try to make it, even though we're there for support, we do try to make it so that you have everything at your disposal to do it on your own. so that you don't feel like you have to wait on someone else to do it. Like if you've got a good moment in the morning, you've got a quick 15 minutes, you want to get it over with, you don't have to, wait for approval or anything like that. So all the instructions and materials are there to make it so that you can, go solo, but have backup support if you need it or want it.
Okay. And I would just like to add, because I've done it, I watched the video, the tutorial, and it guided me through, and I didn't need any additional instructions. And that's important for me because I I have issues following instructions. So it was very clear cut
Same.
for me.
Good to
It's
know.
very
Okay.
clear cut for me. So kudos on that. Okay, and then the last few questions for this segment. Life is unpredictable. What happens if someone needs to pause or decide that they no longer want to participate?
Yeah, of course. It's totally you drive that. So if you want to take a pause, you let us know, hey, I can't continue any longer. We will process what we do have and try to, learn from wherever you did contribute. Or if
Okay.
you want to withdraw, it's like, hey, I don't want to participate anymore. It's totally up to you. We make sure that you really drive this research. There's no coercion. It's like you must do everything. It's like we understand that we're really trying to capture real world molecular and patient reported data in a way that's very natural. So yeah.
Okay. So people are not signing their life away because
No.
sometimes when people hear research, they think that a lot of people don't realize that you can stop at any time with
Yeah.
Yeah.
most clinical trials. It's just completely up to the patient. So thank you for letting everyone know. Before we move on, we have to ask, have you guys personally done the at-home blood collection?
Oh yeah. We
You
probably
did?
have done it the
I'm
most.
over 100 at this point.
Really?
Yeah.
Yep.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I can definitely second that. Well, I haven't done it that much. I've only done it once, but it was painless. And I don't do needles. I don't do pain. I didn't feel anything. Actually, I thought it was broke because I didn't feel anything. So I saw the blood start to drip.
Oh, good.
Okay, so as we are wrapping up, let's talk about the patients. At the end of the day, research only works if patients feel respected, protected, and heard. So I want to focus on the people who make this work possible. Uh, what responsibility do you guys feel when people trust you with their bodies and their data?
You want to take this one?
Yeah. So I think the biggest obligation I feel is around transparency.
Mhm.
And that kind of ties into involvement. So let me go into that a little bit. So like I feel like because it's your biology and it's like your blood, it's your cells that you are, letting us look at in research, that you have a right to know what is going on, right? And you have a right to change your mind, right? Like nothing is permanent, right? So if you um let's say you've been doing research with us for a while and we tell you, hey, we did this and we're doing this and your sample's over here and this is what we're learning, and then you decide, you know what, I don't like something you did. Maybe we publish something that you disagree with.
Mhm.
I think that you have a right to say, I'm out, right? Stop looking at my cells, throw them away. I'm done. I feel like it has to be a kind of continuous two-way street instead
Mhm.
of, okay, you send your blood off and then that's the end of the story and now it goes into some mysterious vault and you never know what happens and you have no control. So to me, it's about transparency. I feel like we have to, yeah, just have an obligation to share what we're doing all the time as much as we can, so that people can make an informed decision about how they want to be involved.
I want to add a complementary viewpoint because for me, the obligation rests on making sure that we try to do the most useful thing possible with the data that we
Yeah.
gather. It's you know, you're giving us your data, your samples. I want to make sure it's not just something that, okay, gets tucked away, right? You know, this is a study and nothing ever happens. I think we're responsible to tell you what happens with the data and actually do something meaningful with it, right? There's a lot of really cool like scientific essays we do on it, right? There's genetics, like looking at RNA, looking at cells. That's cool and all, but if at the end of the day, if you can't use that data to make a decision, then it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's not useful, right? So we really do want it to be like, for me, it's important that it's useful.
Okay. And for someone who is thinking about doing the study and they're concerned about their privacy, um, what do you guys have to say to that? What measures are you guys taking to make sure that patients' information is being protected?
Yeah.
I want to show one example because you actually might have seen it on your box today. So we don't share your name or try to display your, like, we're very sensitive to it. I've seen
Hmm.
some research studies that send you kits and has your name on there. And it's something
Hmm.
that like that's actually identifying, and most people don't know that. Like you'll find, I don't think you can see here, but if you see who it goes to, okay, it's not showing up, but it
Oh,
says
it's
patient.
not, my name is not on
Yeah,
there.
your name's not on there. It says patient scientist 3. All right. So no one's gonna know that you're
Yes.
participating. So little things like that are really important to us.
I
David,
never realized that. I love that.
yeah,
I
but
love
David,
that.
Yeah. I would say the main thing that we uh the main way that we protect it is there's a very strict separation between
Mhm.
when you're talking to study staff and you're a person with a name,
Mhm.
you're, a human that's participating in a study. All of that is kept completely separate from the biological data on the back end. So once it hits the lab, as Tatyana pointed out, even the label itself has a arbitrary kind of just number identifier. Once it hits the lab and it's in the database, um,
Mhm.
that stuff is all anonymized.
Okay.
So any downstream analysis or sharing is only done on that like segmented anonymized data.
Okay.
And your identity with the study staff is maintained solely with the study staff. So,
Okay.
it's hard and important for us because we do have this direct to patient interaction that, Petra over there knows who you are. Someone in the lab doesn't know who you are. Um, and yeah, we just make sure and segment those things very carefully.
and then
Okay.
whenever somebody's analyzing your data, either internally or externally, we always
Mhm.
make sure that they're working with a number and never with anything that might identify, right?
Okay. Okay. That's very important and good to know. Last few questions. Has anything surprised you about patients throughout this journey?
Um, yes, and I don't want to say it's necessarily a surprise. It's something I always had a hunch on. Is you know, I feel like sometimes people dismiss how much of scientists we have. Like, I feel like we all have a scientist inside us. And I feel like
Hmm.
if you give them kind of the right opportunity to be a scientist, they will be. Like,
Hmm.
you have somebody who's not trained in science at all, asking me questions like, hey, I don't think I should take a sample because I had COVID and that might interfere with my signal. And this person has no scientific training whatsoever. And I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, of course, this is amazing, right? Um, so that was really cool.
Okay.
What about you?
David?
Yeah, for me, I think what's been surprising is how many people care. So specifically, I thought the situation would be that 90% of people are like, give me my gift card and don't talk to me. I don't care,
Hmm.
right? That's what
Hmm.
I thought would
Hmm.
be the typical situation. But when we share data and when we host webinars and when we ask for input, um, a lot of people want their data, want to hear about it, want to know what's going on. So that's been really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Because I mean, at the end of the day, I feel like until we have a cure there's work to be done. And for people living with lupus long enough, or even someone who is newly diagnosed, I feel like we are almost not obligated, but there it's like a commitment that arises that you want to do what you can to help further the research or anything to improve your life and the life of, your fellow lupus warriors or autoimmune warriors. So as a patient, I am definitely not surprised by that.
Yeah.
Um,
That's
so
super cool, and it makes me feel like, we're all part of a bigger team, kind of working on this thing together,
yeah.
which I love.
Yeah, and it motivates you during the hard days, during the days
Yeah.
when things are hard and difficult and you have obstacles and barriers. Uh, when you think about like a lot of people are depending on just all of us, collectively coming together and trying to make a difference. I think it helps on those days when things are not so easy.
Yeah.
So the last question is for both of you. So I want you guys to put yourself in a patient's shoes 10 years from now. And someone asks, what has your journey with MU been like? What do you hope that the patient is able to say?
Um, I hope they say I learned something about myself or my body that I've never known before. And being able to kind of carry that empowerment and knowing that there's always more to learn about your biology than what, maybe a normal system gives you.
Mhm.
I mean, I hope we make at-home tests where like it almost becomes as normal as brushing your teeth. It's like my experience with ImYoo now, because I contributed to the science, we now have at-home tests and I can actually measure, is my steroid taper working? And I was part of that, right? So I think that would be really awesome.
Mhm.
Yeah, you stole my answer. Like I want people to be able to go into Walgreens and like point at a thing on the shelf and say that was because of my blood.
Yeah.
Like that test came from my blood, and I know because I've been getting emails over the last few years and talking to people at ImYoo that
Yeah.
study 10 years ago turned into a test, and you can get it now. So that's yeah.
It's like,
I love
how in
that.
the movie you get like the end credits and it has all the names, and it's like I want
Yes,
people to be like, I'm in those end credits.
Yeah, yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yes, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. I love that. Okay, well, as we come to a close, thank you both for taking the time to have this conversation and showing up with honesty and care. As a lupus patient, I know how important it is to understand not just the research, but the people behind it. And my hope is that this conversation helped make things feel a little more clear, more human, more approachable. So before we wrap up, is there anything that you would like to say directly to the people living with lupus or who is thinking about doing the lupus study?
Uh, if you ever have an idea about something, if you're trying something new, a new medication, intervention, pregnancy, whatever it is, and you have a scientific question, come to us. Maybe we can work together to look at that. So more of an action call, I guess.
Love that. David, you have anything?
Yeah, for me, just thanks. Thanks for in the midst of all of the chaos of your own disease journey, thanks for giving back to contribute to the science like that. I know it's hard to carve out, and it really means a lot.
Yeah, awesome. Well, for anyone watching who wants to learn more about the MU Lupus study, you'll find additional information linked below so that you can decide what feels right for you. Thank you both so much for taking the time to speak with me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Awesome.